topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
What's working on purpose anyway? Each week, we ponder the answer to this question. People ache for meaning and purpose at work, to contribute their talents passionately and know their lives really matter. They crave being part of an organization that inspires them and helps them grow into realizing their highest potential. Business can be such a force for good in the world, elevating humanity. In our program, we provide guidance and inspiration to help usher in this world we all want, working on purpose. Now, here's your host, Dr. Elise Cortez.
Welcome back to the Working on Purpose program, which has been brought to you with passion and pride since February of 2015. Thanks for tuning in this week. Great to have you. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. If we have not met before and you don't know me, I'm a workforce advisor, organizational psychologist, management consultant, logotherapist, speaker, and author. My team and I at Gusto Now help companies enliven and fortify their operations by building a dynamic, high-performance culture, inspirational leadership, and nurturing managers activated by meaning and purpose. And did you know that inspired employees outperform their satisfied peers by a factor of 2.25 to 1? In other words, inspiration is good for the bottom line. You can learn more about us and how we can work together at gusto-now.com or my personal site, elisecortez.com. Before we get into today's program, I'm thrilled to announce that registration has been open for a fabulous new conference for women for which I'll serve as the MC. It's called Thrive in 25 and is a jam-packed few days in Chicagoland, June 25th through 28th, 2025, and is designed to develop women as whole selves. From bolstering your mindset, to your financial acumen, to leadership, to incorporating nature and art into your life to raise consciousness, and much more. You can visit thriveit25.com for information. And when you register, use my promo code. It's, of course, Gusto in all caps. And that will give you access to some other free books and programs I'm gifting to registrants as well. Now, getting into today's program, we have with us David Cohen, who is an author, business coach, and facilitator. At Your Big Venture, he specializes in helping business owners mind their strengths, get clear on their value, their markets, and then begin to develop a sales and marketing game plan that gets results. He's the co-author of Live Life Swift, which we'll be talking about today. He joins us today from Toronto, Canada. David, a hearty welcome to Working on Purpose.
And as we would say in Canada, a hearty welcome, eh?
I forgot the A part. I'll work on that. Well, first, let's give a shout out to how it is we know each other. Our common dear friend and mentor, Dr. Lance Secreton, out of Canada. He is why I know you, why we came together, and I know that you have credited him in the front of your book as well. So we'll start with a Lance, we love you. Start.
Yeah, let's throw some good energy his way. He's still at it. He's really an amazing man. I mean, he's 84. I think he's going to be 85 this year. He'll kill me for spilling that, but and he's still very vibrant and vital and loves what he does. And how can you not be inspired by him and his work in leadership? You know?
Agreed. And this actually is a nice way to kick off our conversation today about living life swift. Yes, he is to be 85 years old. And ladies and gentlemen, Lance travels 100 days of the year. He skis 100 days of the year. And he kayaks 100 days of the year. And he has many, many, many clients still all over the place. And I think he has, I don't know how many books out, 23. So here's to living life in crescendo. Your best work is always ahead of you, as Stephen Covey and Cynthia Covey, his daughter, have written in their book. So let's start with that, David.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, I just love Stephen Covey, too. I mean, his work is, still, and I quote him in the book as well.
I remember, yes.
The idea, the 7 habits of highly effective people. It's just, when he wrote that, I wonder if he knew that the shelf life that book would have. I mean, it's still very practical and needed in today's crazy world.
I know. It's really wonderful to get to celebrate that. Well, let's talk about you, my friend. One of the things that I find very interesting about you is that you are focused on empowering young entrepreneurs and employees between the ages of 19 and 35 to have the courage, the confidence, and the soft skills to succeed and to lead. So, of course, I have to ask, I'm a meaning and work and identity researcher, among other things. Why that generation, that age segment, and why that focus?
That's a really good question because I've switched it. This is something new. It's a new focus and a new direction. Not entirely new in terms of it's still learning and coaching and leadership skills training. However, the way it's being delivered is very different and new. And so it was born out of two things: a passion for teaching youth. And in my current sort of work, iteration of my work, I do training and coaching work with nonprofit entrepreneur training programs in the GTA, in the Greater Toronto Area. And a lot of that is with youth entrepreneurs. They have a real passion for youth, and that they have that direction, they have the confidence, they have the skills in order to succeed. And I see that's lacking. Like there's, in my research, there's a real gap as far as that's concerned. And the other thing too, this is a bit more of a personal why, if you're to kind of look at Simon Sinek's, what's your why? I lost my dad at 10, and I was raised by wolves. I mean, three older sisters and mom.
That was your out loud voice, David. I heard it.
Yeah. Don't tell them. But I didn't have that father sort of figure to guide me, and make it in this world. Women are different than men. My mom was a stay-at-home mom when my dad passed, so it's a bit of that too. It's part of the journey in my wound. And then I love, as I said, I love teaching them that group of 19 to 35-year-olds. As a matter of fact, I'm teaching them a group tomorrow morning on Zoom about business planning, and it's this is sort of maybe the last part of my journey as far as my teaching and coaching and consulting career goes. And I want to make an impact and a positive difference.
Hear, hear. We need more of that in the world. Well, one of the things that you and I have in common is this idea of helping people to champion to their best lives, whatever that is. I do that, of course, usually inside organizations, although I do, like you, have now the ability to focus and help individuals as well with my online academy. But I am interested from your vantage point, why do you think people generally, there's several reasons I'm sure, don't tend to pursue their fullest life, their biggest goals? What holds them back?
Man, in a way, I've lived a little bit of it. I think fear is fear of change, and fear of the unknown. And what I've been experiencing a little bit is I find leadership, especially in government and business, lacking a little bit. And so it leads one to just lose faith and hope that things can improve. And so there's a bit of a malaise, a little bit of, doesn't matter, like that kind of vibe going on. And I feel like now's not the time to be like that. Now's the time to step up and make a difference.
Yeah. Well, so for me, what I've noticed mostly through being out speaking in public, speaking at conferences, et cetera, is often I will ask the audience at some point fairly early into my talk, what are you passionate about? And in that one instant, David, the room stops for just a collective moment. And I realize as I look out of the faces of the people in my crowd that they don't have an answer to the question. And in me asking that question, they just realize that for themselves. So what I have come to is that people have gotten disconnected from one, their own emotions, their own ability to feel, and therefore, be enlivened by something that might really turn them on or just light them up from within. So they can't feel it anymore. 2, you're on the hamster wheel, which has actually been a little bit decreased since COVID. We've decided that we don't want to live on a frenetic pace, but people are still moving so fast and furious. And then what I've discovered is that they haven't been able to find a moment to connect with what they're really passionate about, or what they used to be passionate about either has gotten so far in the hindsight or the rearview mirror that they can't feel it anymore. And that's part of why I love doing what I'm doing, is to help inspire people again to dream, to want more for themselves, and to resurrect those dreams that they, left lying maybe somewhere buried in the backyard. So that's what I've kind of gotten so far.
Yeah, and that's kind of a scary place to be, because that's the lack of hope, right? You don't have a dream. I'm going to quote a movie musical. You've got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, how are you going to make your dreams come true, right? That's from South Pacific. Sorry about the singing, but it's about having a dream, and it's about having hope. And I think in this day and age of crazy government and just all the negative news that we hear throughout the day, and this one's arguing. We just had an election here in Canada, federal election.
Yes, I remember.
Barking at that one, and that one's barking at that one, and it's like, well, they're both like crazy. So it's like, I think we've lost hope in a way, and that's not good. And I'd like to, I guess my mission is to let's get some hope back, and it starts with us. If we're counting on our leaders and politicians, we're looking in the right place, the wrong place. We got to look within, and we have to start, in community and build out.
Well, to that end, I really like, I'm going to read a quote from your book that I really appreciate, that I just think that makes so much sense. You say the true essence of living the SWIFT method, which we're going to talk about here later, ladies and gentlemen, and acting on it in your life is about you living a full life, a life where you are consciously creating, acting and planning, or making a life that has a balance, meaningful moments, and goodness in it every day. So for me, one of the key words there is consciousness, being very, very intentional about what it is that you allow yourself to think, which we can do anytime. It doesn't matter who's in the White House, who's governing your country, or what's going on in the world. We have complete control over what happens between our two ears.
Exactly.
And that I would like to call out and encourage people to step into that space and focus there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did, Elise, because that's the biggest battle, isn't it? Is the thoughts between your two ears, the beliefs, the patterns, how the traumas maybe show up and affect your current life. And I, we need to take those things into account as well when we're seeing in your work, where you're teaching groups and speaking to groups, and you're not seeing people passionate about something. And I think we need to heal within, and also it's a battle every day in the mind. It's like that the story about the two wolves, the angry wolf, the good wolf. Who do I feed? Oh
yes, yeah.
So feed the good one.
Well, yeah, and to that end, one of the things that I also align with you on is this notion. You talk about how your system really empowers people to live in a way that they have the encouragement to share their passions, their abilities, and their gifts, and live in that full life that will ultimately support you. And what I know from my own experience of teaching inside organizations, multitudes of research, et cetera, is that when we do give ourselves over to our passions, what happens is our energy completely rises and we become infectious. And that's why I encourage leaders to build into their culture spaces for people to talk about and pursue their passions, even if it isn't directly related to their job, because it so increases the energy and vitality of the organization and the people around them. It becomes a positive virus, if you will, of sorts. And so when you do that, now you raise the whole energy across your whole entire life, and you have more energy to pursue more things in general.
Mm-hmm. But Lance, we were talking about our friend Lance, and he just posted on his LinkedIn profile the Gallup study report about engagement in the workplace.
Yes, I saw that.
And it wasn't pretty.
No, it was rather pretty ugly.
Yeah. So that then you're also, you're going upstream against that too. So you've got disengagement. You've got managers that are tired, and I think in a sense that's another challenge that nobody talks about, but it's there, and it's there with, like, I check in with my friends and colleagues, and how you doing? Oh, I'm really tired, and so there's this sort of fatigue of fighting uphill. And for the past 5 years, it's been one thing after another, in the news cycle or in society, and it wears one down. And I think when you're worn down, where then how can we access that passion?
Yeah, no, I understand. We're going to give our listeners and viewers a little bit of time to think about, so we go on our first break. And I would encourage you, listeners and viewers, to think about, where are things going great in your life, and where do you feel that worn down piece that maybe we can start to get you focused on getting out of. But let's go ahead and take our first break. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. We've been on the air with David Cohen of Your Big Venture, where he specializes in helping business owners mind their strengths, get clear on their value, their markets, and then begin to develop a sales and marketing game that gets results. We've been talking so far about his focus and passion on helping empower and enable youth in work and business, as well as the importance of now intentionality. After the break, we're going to get into his SWIFT model. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us, and welcome back to Working on Purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. As I am dedicated to helping create a world where organizations thrive because their people thrive, we're led by inspirational leaders that help them find and contribute their greatness, and we do business that betters the world. I keep researching and writing my own books. So one of my last ones came out. It's called The Great Revitalization: How Activating Meaning and Purpose Can Radically Enliven Your Business. And I wrote it to help leaders understand the today's needs of the workforce. What do they want to need to stay engaged, to give their best, and stick around? And then I offer you 22 best practices to equip you to provide the culture and leadership that they crave. You can find my books on Amazon or my personal site, elisecortez.com. If you are just now joining us, my guest is David Cohen. He's the co-author of Live Life Swift. So let's talk about Swift. It's always fun. I always think it's interesting. I only got into the idea of an acronym in my last book, and it was really fun. So let's get situated with our listeners and viewers about what is this acronym? What does it break down to, and why is it important? So let's start with the S, which is for social. Talk to us about social.
So it's about, the whole concept is about having balance and meaning and purpose in how you live your life. And you can't just do one thing. You want to, there's 5 key pillars, and that's the SWIFT model. So the idea of social is make sure you have a social life. Make sure you go out, have coffee with a friend, or go catch a movie on a Friday afternoon and cut out of work early or your business early. Be sure to have a social life and good people around you. So I think that's really about it. And so set your social goals and intentions. I'll share a funny story, and I shared it in the book. This squid concept, I finally acted on it like 2.5, 3 years ago. And the book came out this past January. But it's been with me for a while, since like 2003. And in a land before time, before Facebook and LinkedIn. And podcasting. There was no podcasting then. Anyway, I was speaking at a business for a town just outside of Toronto, and their economic development team had these breakfast meetings, and they brought me out to speak, and I spoke about the SWIFT method. And so when I'm sharing my social goals, my goal was to go on a blind date,
This is in your book. This is great.
Yeah. And some woman at the end comes up to me, who I kind of knew from my business out in that area, said, "Are you really real about being fixed up? Because I have somebody for you." And we actually went on our date, our blind date, and unfortunately, she was moving out west. Like, it would be like you're in Texas, so it would be like I'm in New York and she's moving to Texas, right? It didn't go very far, but you got to be careful what you wish for and what you say, because it just might happen. So, set those social goals. Make sure you have a social life. Really important.
Yeah, and I like how you talk about, what amazing people are you wanting to connect with or reconnect with. Set your sights high, set your standards for where you want to go in life. I think that's such a great situation. For me, you talk about other hobbies and things. I lived in Spain and Brazil in my mid-20s, and when I came back, I was like, one day I am going to take tango. Well, I finally, because I saw it in Argentina, I started taking tango in 2019, and I absolutely love it. So I'll be going to class tonight. I take improv classes, storytelling classes, and singing classes. So I'm with you. I think I'm doing good on the S in many regards.
Yes, you are. And we should talk in the form of a question.
Absolutely. Yeah. And yes, and right. And improv is always about yes, and.
Yeah.
So we build on that, and it's really wonderful. It's helped me in so many ways. Anyway, so it helps me be a better speaker, a better presenter, a better connector, and it turns out it's pretty fun too.
It is. I took it as well. So I've done 3 courses so far, and it allows you to be that little inner kid.
Absolutely. And co-create with people, which is so fun. You have no idea what's going to turn out, what's going to be on the other side. And so really, really quick, I told a story from my storytelling class, which is about my beloved grandmother and me making cookies for her and burning them. And she proclaiming them to be the best cookies she'd ever had, because that's what grandmothers do. And afterwards, the improv came up to riff on our 3 stories. And I was delighted to know that they riffed a lot on mine. And what they did is, there were 4 of them. At one point, they created a scene where the flour and the butter that was all over the floor got into a fight. It was so fun. That's the kind of stuff that you just don't go in with a plan with. It just emerges. And that's what's delightful about it. And you see, as I'm talking, ladies and gentlemen, what's happening? My energy is elevating. So when we connect with these kinds of things that we're passionate about, that light us up, that's what happens. So we want you to go do more of that.
Yeah, do more social and have fun. You're right. And what if you threw into the mix this angry, crazy chef making those cookies?
These are the worst cookies I have ever seen.
Yeah. Like adding a character, and flavor to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the characters are the best.
Oh, it's so fun. Okay, well, let's go on to W, which stands for work or business.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
So again, it's like, this is what we do for 8 to 10 hours a day, sometimes longer, sometimes 6 days a week, sometimes if you're self-employed, 7, which I don't advise. So it's really about setting your intentions, the actions, and the goals and the areas of your business or work that you want to accomplish in that month ahead. So you do this chart monthly, and it's a great way to sort of, hey, I did okay last month. And then this is what I'm going to create this month. And work in your business are super important. So I'm a big believer of creating action plans, or these are the core areas I need to work on in order to move forward. So if you keep moving forward, we talked about, you talked about how people are lack passion, and I talked about this fatigue and everything. I think we can still be passionate in spite of those factors. And one way to do it is to take baby steps. So take baby steps in your business, in your work. You don't all of a sudden, oh, I'm opening my door, I'm going to be a millionaire by next week, right? Well, that doesn't happen too often. So if at all. So, but take those baby steps and keep working towards it. So it just gives you that sort of framework and balance, and gets you present to what's a priority for you to do well in your business and your work or work.
Yeah. And, we're both business owners. It takes something to build a business. And one of the things I appreciate about you, there's a reason that not everybody is an entrepreneur. But I like that you also advise to, make a list of what you need to do, but then make it fun. Maybe make a challenge fun, or even into some kind of a game or a project, so that you can find some joy in that, and it doesn't become something you have to do, but something that you get to do that lights you up. And I like that. I also really, really like the idea that you advise of sharing your goals, your vision, and your ideas mindfully. Share with people so they can hear what you're up to, and it help hold you accountable and also encourage you. I think those are really powerful pieces of advice.
Yeah. And, or get an accountability partner, a mastermind team to help you move forward. And you're familiar with that in your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I also like, and this is really important. And when I'm working with organizations, and then I'm coaching the leaders inside those organizations, often part of what I'm doing with them as we work together over time is just what you alluded to earlier, where I help hold up the mirror to say, hang on a minute, David, let's celebrate what you just did and said there. 2 months ago, you would not have done that. You're right. So now they get to claim and own that growth, and then they get to it helps fold it into their person. But that celebration of like you do by looking at these things monthly really helps you to recognize you are making progress. And I really like that part of your system.
Yeah. And you could take this into a company too, the SWIFT method. And as a team, what are you going to work on over the next month? What are the high priorities and must do's?
Yes. Okay, so the next letter in the acronym of SWIFT is I for inner. Talk about inner.
Yeah, that's really about nurturing your inner world, your inner self. So we talked about it already, about managing the thoughts.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'm so glad you brought that up. And but it's also about taking time out to nurture your inner world, which is, you do that with prayer, reading. If it's, reading a passage in the Bible, if that's for you, then do it, right? Meditating. I meditate, I do journaling, and I do a gratitude journal every morning before I get going. And I've got to be able to do those in order to have a positive day. And I also set my intentions for that day. Mm-hmm. So that's what inner is about: learning, reading, meditating, journaling, studying, so you got to work on your inner game. And we talked about Dr. Stephen Covey, and that would be my version of sharpening the saw.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I do several of them. I have some of the similar practices that you have, and it's so important to cultivate your presence, your mindfulness, and your awareness. So that's part of what those things tend to do as well, which is wonderful. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about F, which is financial, the dollar part, the money part.
Yeah. When we did our research for this, we had beta testers, and this is one section that none of them liked. It's like, yeah, but you got to think about the money. You've got to have a game plan. You can't just, have a goal in mind and have a game plan and get the proper help around you to accomplish it. Plus, in this day and age, it's not just dollars and cents or stocks and bonds or real estate or minerals like gold and silver. Now you got, cryptocurrency and, all kinds of other ways to make money. And, also the financial ties into your work or business. I mean, if we're going to leave, in some cases, it's directly related to the amount of money that we're making or not making. So it's important. It's a section where you can write down the actions and the goals and your intentions and work on it.
Yeah, and I think we both agree. It doesn't matter how old or how young you are. It just start. It's just now is a good time. If you haven't started anything on this front before, today's good.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you said that. Yeah.
Okay, the last one, which is really quite delightful and surprising. The T stands for take care of.
Yeah, and that is taking care of your health, your family, and also doing work in the community, taking care of others in the community to make the community stronger. Yeah.
How this relates or aligns with me or speaks to my heart, you might remember that I'm a logotherapist, which is Viktor Frankl's existential philosophy or psychology. And a lot of what he's talking about is, when you employ the idea of self-transcendence and you're focused not on yourself, but on other people, that lends to a sense of vitality. We are better as humans when we are helping and serving others, when we're not absorbed in our own problems, our own issues, but rather helping someone else. So this one really speaks to me for those reasons.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I'm glad that it does. I feel too that if we we get out of our own way and let go of what's in our way when we're helping others, oh my God, the gift in that is incredible. And we share stories in the book about helping others and in the community. And I think you get a lot more from it than what you give. And it's really incredible. So I feel like we all need to have some element of give back.
I completely agree. And now you've summoned a story for me, which I'll share when we come back from the break.
Oh, good.
I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. We've been on the air with David Cohen of Your Big Venture, where he specializes in helping business owners mind their strengths, get clear on their value, their markets, and then begin to develop a sales and marketing game plan that gets results. We've been talking about his SWIFT model to live your best life. After the break, we're going to get into some various ways you can apply some of the ideas and the ways that he thinks about things and helps his clients. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us and welcome back to Working on Purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. As you know by now, this program is dedicated to empowering and inspiring you along your journeys to realize more of your potential. So if you want to learn more about how we can work together and learn about the Gusto Now Academy, which is an online feature, you can make your way to our main website, gusto-now.com, and then go to the training tab and you can find the Academy. If you are just now joining us, my guest is David Cohen. He's the co-author of Live Life Swift. So the story I mentioned before we went on break about giving back. So in 2005, after Hurricane Katrina had hit, living here in Dallas, I was married at the time, and we had a 2.5-year-old daughter. And my husband had gone to high school at the Jesuit High School in New Orleans. And so when the hurricane hit, he's like, these people are going to need some help. So he called the local Dallas Jesuit school and said, "Hey, can we help? Is there something you need? You need canned goods? Do you need diapers? Do you need rooms in a house? What do you need?" And they said, "Rooms in a house. How many how many can you give?" And we said 4. We had 4 at the time. She said, "I'll take them all." So we ended up like early September 2005, taking in 3 high school senior boys and then one set of their parents for a while. And they lived with us. And so my young daughter got 3 big brothers right overnight. And it was amazing. The experience was amazing. And I remember writing in the Christmas letter that year saying that just what you said, we extended a hand to take in these boys thinking that we would make a difference in their lives, when in fact what had happened is they made a profound difference in our lives. And we're still in touch. They're still connected to us. It was such a profound experience.
Yeah, I bet. And oh man, such pain and devastation in that. I remember watching, and it was like on, CNN or whatever. Here we get CNN here in Toronto, and after 3 days, I had to stop. It was like, this is too much to bear. Yeah.
It was amazing to be with them as they went through all that, So they stayed with us for the 4 months while their school was rebuilt, and then they went back to New Orleans to finish the rest of the school year. Anyway, so that speaks again to the power of the human spirit to persevere. And part of that is I want to get to one of your pieces of advice that we can use to apply to make our lives the best and our fullest, and that is to believe in ourselves.
Yeah, if you don't, nobody else is. I don't mean to be flippant about that, but you really do have to have some sort of belief or even self-love and self-nurturing, because I as an entrepreneur, these past 2 years, I've found it the toughest, most challenging 2 years in my business life than I've ever experienced. Mm-hmm. And so we need to adapt and adopt really smart habits, and the SWIFT method is definitely going to help you do that. And just you need that kind of support.
You do, and sometimes you need to be reminded of believing in yourself. And so I love to share this example. It's from the movie Cinderella Man. Russell Crowe is a boxer, and his coach, I forget his name, but I love him as an actor. Every time that Russell was going in for a fight, they'd be in the prep room, and his coaches put his tape and his gloves on him, and so the coach is standing. Russell Crowe is laying on the table, and his coach says, "Who was that knocked out so and so in the third round?" And Russell says, "I believe that was me." And then the coach goes on, "Hey, who was that?" And he goes on with a few other things where he's surfacing and remembering some of his fights. And one of the best times that he does that, so Russell goes, "That was me." And then the last time he says it, he goes, "But I'm beginning to believe it might have been you who did all that stuff." But the point is, his coach was helping him believe in himself. And we do need that sometimes. If we can't summon it for ourselves, being in association, choosing who to socialize with and be in communion with, can help remind us of those things when we forget how great we really are.
Yeah. I just saw Lisa Nichols on Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi event this last week on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And she spoke on Saturday about she was a swimmer, a competitive swimmer as a teen, but she was like the worst. She never won. She came in last, Anyway, she was bumped up to compete with older girls. And she said, "No, I'm going to make a difference this time. I'm not going to finish last. I'm not going to be a loser." And she spoke to her grandmother right before the swim meet. And her grandmother instilled this: winners never quit, quitters never win. And so she dove into the pool in the race. That was her mantra as she's swimming, winners never quit, quitters never win. Winners never quit. And you know what? She came in first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mindset is so powerful. Mm-hmm. I just remembered the coach's name. It's Paul Giamatti. I want to make sure and honor him. He's such a beautiful soul.
I know, and I think that movie was filmed here in Toronto, actually.
Really?
I had a client of mine that had a bit part.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Okay, so another piece of advice that you offer is to act on our goals and our dreams. Sounds simple enough, but
That's important. Have your big dreams, and you never know. You might hit. And that's where Lance really he actually wrote, or I quoted him in his work. And yeah, have those big dreams. We forget, like, life's magical, and yet we've been bogged down by all this nonsense over the past five, probably longer. But it just seems there's more of an intensity lately. And so don't forget to dream, and have that big goal. I'll just share a really quick story around that. So one of my dreams is to go to Africa to teach. I'm a little.
Oh, I know that. Yes.
Yeah. Right. And I'm a little nervous about that. So I'm also moving into a new direction with the business, with working with youth and 19 to 35 in two capacities, right? So I applied. There's a site here in Toronto called Ripen, RIPEN.ca, and you can put a proposal in to get help from students to help you with maybe market research or maybe strategy or whatever. So I did that, and it was around January, and I was thinking, I'm not getting anywhere with this, right? All of a sudden, the next day, I got a request from Cavendish University. I'm going, Cavendish University, where's this? So we meet, and they're in Zambia, and they want to work with me. And matter of fact, we had a meeting yesterday, and then we have one last meeting on Friday, and we'll complete the work. But now I've got a relationship with somebody that in entrepreneur. So these are students that are in entrepreneurship or business. And I'm going to definitely pursue that and talk to them down the road about maybe, if I don't teach online, maybe for now, but within the next year to come in person and meet the students and speak to the class. So isn't that funny? It just showed up.
Well, there's something about speaking it into the universe, right? There is definitely, and then just putting it out there. But why do you want to go to Africa? What is it about Africa that's calling you?
I don't know. It's in a way, it's a bit scary to go there because like there is like such poverty and that kind of scares me. But and then it's so far away from my little place here. It's that and going somewhere where I've never been, and I'm so out of my element and my normal routine, and it's like if you're not going to grow if you don't stretch yourself. So I'm going to go.
True that. Well, listeners and viewers, you know that I'm a huge fan of world travel. And my anthology has stories from women who live in Africa, and I am coming to see them at some point in person as well. So who knows? Maybe we're on the same bus, David. But
yeah, maybe that'd be great.
Right?
We'll teach them improv too.
Right? We'll go together. Well, that speaks to like one of the other things that you would like to talk about. You talk about life balance is vital. So speak to that, and then I'll add my 2 cents to that.
You burn out. Especially now, you burn out after a while. If you're just a one-trick pony, you burn out. And so live a full life. We're only here for a short time. Live a full life and do your best at everything, and not that it has to all work out. It in some cases it doesn't. Not that everybody's going to be your favorite person, but if you're socializing, but socialize with people that lift your spirits and that bring you joy and that you can learn from, and just soak it all up. We're only here for a short term or a short time, so soak it all up and live that full life.
Well, okay, so that's interesting. So to me, what you just said is different from life balance. I would call the full ingredient, soup is what you just talked about. I thought you were saying, like, for example, we hear work-life balance all the time. And just last week, we were having a conversation of that. It's better to go for work-life harmony or work-life integration than balance, because balance implies, a scarcity. It's either this or that. So I like the way you described that and totally align with that. Yeah, that's why, we're all about going for the gusto here at Gusto Now, right? That's our thing.
Yeah. And that's so important. Live with gusto. Fire on all cylinders,
Yeah.
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 And have a balanced approach. Not that it's work-life balance. It's like have a balanced approach. Don't just be all work, no play.
Right.
You'll have nothing in the end.
Yeah. Enjoy the buffet of life. Yes.
Exactly.
I always tell people, when it comes to running, for example, to keep myself going, I've got a formula for how I keep running. And that is I follow the best looking man in the field, and then I have somebody release the wild animal behind me. And it works every time to keep running.
I love your philosophy too. It's beautiful. You're so much fun. I had you as a guest on the book event back in February, and for your viewers and listeners, Dr. Elise is the real deal. You said yes immediately. You came on, you did a talk. You're so gracious and professional, and now tonight I find out that you do improv. So you're just the real deal.
Oh, thank you, David. I'm trying to eat the whole buffet of life too. So, and I happen to be a pretty good eater, so it helps. Okay, so to finish this conversation, we have just a couple of minutes here. I want to talk about this idea of the big challenges, big dreams. It's hard. Like writing a book, for example, is hard. Those bigger, longer term projects. So, give us your perspective, your advice, and how do we keep ourselves focused on those big challenges to make them come true?
2 words. There are 3 words. Chunk it down. Just do it in bite sizes, because it took over 3 years to get that, or 2.5 to get that book going, and there's phases. So enjoy the journey, because you'll end up, it'll be on Amazon eventually. Just keep enjoying the journey, keep working through it, take it in. It doesn't have to be overnight. Take your time with it and chunk it down. Do it in bite-sized pieces. It's a lot nicer. I like writing Saturday mornings, for example, first thing in the morning, and I have a coffee and I have nice jazz music on, and I'm in a nice place to write.
Yeah. And the other thing that you talk about in the book that I really align with too is just get to it, just start. And the worst thing that you can do is say, I'll get to it one day, because you don't know if you get that one day. So today is a good day to start, and just do one small step. And that will also make you feel better, help stoke your enthusiasm and your energy if you just do something every day.
Yeah. An hour every day. I'm teaching business planning tomorrow. And people get freaked out. Oh, I hate business plans. They're so long. They're tedious, blah, blah, blah. It's like, just do a half hour a day. And by a month, you'll have it.
Yeah. Well, it's been beautiful to get to know you better, David. All these times that we've been on our mentorship calls where Lance is pouring into us. And so getting connected there. But now I feel like I know you on a whole different level. Thank you so much for coming on Working in Purpose, talking about your life, your business, and live life swift. Beautiful.
Thanks for allowing me to be your guest. And what a joy. I remember booking this back in January, and I'm thinking, May, oh my God, it's so long. And then here we are. And what a joy you are to be on your show. And I love the work you're doing. So, keep up the amazing things. You're doing amazing work.
Well, thank you, David. Would you like to give the listeners and viewers, say 30 seconds of a perspective, pearls of wisdom, encouragement?
Get the book. It's on Amazon. Live Life Swift. Just live your life, to the best of just do your best. You can go to bed every night and say, I did my best, whether it's socializing or your business or, your money. I'm doing my best. That's all we can do.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, David. Thank you. Listeners and viewers, if you want to learn more about David Cohen, the work he does at Your Big Venture, or his new big book, Live Life Swift, start by visiting his website. It's yourbigventure.com, yourbigventure.com. Last week, if you missed the live show, you can always catch it via recorded podcast or wherever you get yours. We were on air with Dr. Tracy Brower, who is a PhD sociologist studying happiness, work-life fulfillment, and the future of work. We talked about these seemingly elusive concepts and how we can put them into action into your culture. Next week, we'll be on the air with the dynamic duo of Funke Ninyaya, Michaels and her co-author, Nebiya Abusa, to talk about their new beautiful book called Modern Leadership Inspired by Mother Nature. I can't wait for this. And by the way, one of them is from Africa. See you then. And remember that work is one of the best adventures and means of realizing our potential and making the impact we crave, and can give us the opportunity to do business in a way that betters the world. So let's work on purpose.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's program. Be sure to tune into Working on Purpose, featuring your host, Dr. Elise Cortez, each week on W4CY. Together, we'll create a world where business operates conscientiously, leadership inspires impassioned performance, and employees are fulfilled in work that provides the meaning and purpose they crave. See you there. Let's work on purpose.